Can you actually fix an electric car battery when it goes bad? Or do you just push the whole thing straight to the junkyard? That question haunted me when I was seriously considering buying my first EV. Some people think about this before they even sign the deal. Others only remember this disaster after the money is already gone. I'm going to walk you through when it actually makes sense to call a mechanic and when you're better off just accepting that your ride is done. Welcome to the channel. Stay with me until the end. I guarantee you've heard that guy at the cookout who acts like he knows everything. Oh, if your EV battery burns out, either open your wallet for 30 grand or get your heart ready to watch your car become a pile of scrap. Is that actually the truth? Or is it just another myth that people keep passing around without ever bothering to check? I always told my kids we don't live in a world of absolutes. And no, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about shades, layers, the stuff in between. Life is full of gray areas. It's 2026, and a whole lot has shifted for the better since those early Nissan Leafs that shed range faster than your phone dies on a road trip, or those original Tesla Model S units that would practically bake themselves sitting in the summer heat in Texas or Arizona. The battery is essentially the beating heart of any electric vehicle, easily the most expensive piece of the whole machine. That one component alone represents close to half of everything you paid for the car. That's exactly why the repair or replace question has two completely different answers depending on which angle you're looking from, the mechanical side and the financial side. Think about it this way. You're used to your gas-powered car. Injector goes bad. Easy fix, swap it out, and you're back on the road. Well, batteries are slowly starting to work the same way, but there are details, seriously important details, that you need to wrap your head around before making any move. And that's exactly what I'm going to break down right now. If you're already part of this community, hit that like button because you already know this content is worth your time. And if you haven't yet, I'm pretty confident you'll do it before this video wraps up. Before I get into the specifics of each brand and model, because I absolutely will, you need to understand what's actually living inside that massive black box bolted underneath your car. It is not one solid chunk of material. Not at all. The traction battery in an electric vehicle is typically built across 3 layers or 3 very separate levels. First layer, the cells, the smallest unit of the whole system, kind of like those AA batteries sitting in your TV remote, except dramatically more advanced and powerful. Second layer, the modules, which are simply organized clusters of those cells all working as a team. Third layer, the pack. The full assembly including the outer casing, the thermal management system when the vehicle has one, and the electronic brain called the BMS, the battery management system. So, when people talk about repairing a battery, they're usually referring to cracking open that pack to deal only with the specific module that failed. Now, swapping out individual cells is an entirely different story. That's basically performing open-heart surgery, and only a small group of highly specialized technicians or slightly unhinged ones, or both at the same time, are willing to take that on. Because trying to balance a fresh new cell alongside thousands of cells that have already been through years of wear is like asking a 20-year-old sprinter to match the exact pace of an 80-year-old man on his morning walk. If one pulls more than the other, the entire pack loses its balance completely. To figure out whether fixing the battery actually makes financial sense, you need to look at 3 key variables that will determine everything. First, how much a brand new battery costs on the market. Second, the architecture and design of your specific car. Third, the current resale value of your vehicle today. Let's break each one down. First variable, the price of a brand new battery. The most relevant reference point here starts around 2020, when battery costs actually began dropping hard on the global market. But pay close attention to this. If in 2020 we were looking at an average cost of roughly $270 per kilowatt hour, today those numbers have already come down significantly, sitting somewhere between $170 and $200 per kilowatt hour. A fresh battery for a Chevy Bolt with 65 kilowatt hours runs somewhere around $11,000. A Tesla Model 3 battery with 75 kilowatt hours jumps up closer to $15,000, while a Ford Mustang Mach-E battery with its 91 kilowatt hours can easily push past $18,000. The math is straightforward. If fixing just the bad module is going to cost you around $2,000 and a full replacement battery runs about $16,000, the answer is obvious. Fix it without thinking twice. But if your car is pushing 10 years old, has over 180,000 miles on it, and the rest of the battery is only running at 70% of its original capacity, according to that well-known SOH indicator, the state of health reading, then spending $2,000 on one module is just solving today's problem while setting up tomorrow's headache. Second variable, architecture matters more than most people realize. This is where engineers can either make your life easier, turn it into a nightmare, or flat out make any repair completely impossible. Because some manufacturers actually design their batteries with future maintenance in mind, while others seem to have a deep personal grudge against mechanics and honestly against the car owners themselves. BMW i3, a textbook example of doing it right. The battery comes divided into 8 highly accessible modules that can be swapped out independently, and the vehicle recognizes those changes without any major software headaches or reprogramming drama. Tesla Model Y with the 4680 cells. This is where the story takes a hard turn. Tesla started using the battery pack as a structural part of the vehicle's frame, and in many cases fills the internal space with a foam-like resin to add rigidity and thermal insulation at the same time. It's basically like trying to repair a remote control that someone dropped into wet concrete. It simply cannot be done. You have no choice but to replace the entire battery pack. Hyundai-Kia Group, the well-known eGMP platform models like the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, which are becoming increasingly popular across the US, feature a fairly advanced modular design that allows entire sections to be swapped out with reasonable ease, which naturally brings down both the part's cost and the labor bill. Let me walk you through this brand by brand in alphabetical order, so you get a clear picture of where things actually stand when it comes to battery repairability. BMW. The i3 and i4 are relatively straightforward to work on. The i3 in particular built an entire secondary market of independent specialists who keep these cars running strong simply by swapping out the bad modules. Volkswagen Group, including Audi and Volkswagen itself, the MEB platform has a modular structure. In theory, authorized service centers can replace individual modules. The real problem is usually the outrageous labor rates at dealerships, which often make the gap between repairing and buying a full replacement pack a lot smaller than it should be. Hyundai and Kia, currently among the best in the business on this front. They supply separate modules and have specialized equipment to balance those parts before installation. A genuinely smart choice if you're thinking long-term. Lexus and Toyota, the undisputed masters of hybrid technology. Their nickel metal hydride batteries are the most repaired units on the planet. There are shops that replace the bad cells for under $300, and the car keeps rolling for another 120,000 miles without breaking a sweat. With their newer lithium generations, they carry that same customer-first philosophy forward. Nissan, the Leaf is everywhere. Because the early generations had no active liquid cooling system, those batteries took a serious beating in hot climates like Arizona, Nevada, and Texas. The upside is that there is so much inventory available and so much accumulated knowledge out there that finding a reconditioned battery or a used module from a salvage yard is genuinely easy. Chevrolet Bolt, worth mentioning here because it is one of the most common affordable EVs on American roads. LG Energy Solutions supplies the cells and replacement modules are available through GM dealerships, though the infamous battery recall from a few years back left a lot of owners with trust issues that honestly are not completely unjustified. Tesla, by far the most complicated to work on. On the older Model S and Model X units, repair is possible, but keep in mind those packs carry more than 16 different modules. On the newer structural battery models I already mentioned, cell-level repair is basically a pipe dream right now. Now here is something I genuinely love talking about because I am a sucker for automotive history and weird stories, especially when the two collide perfectly. Did you know that back at the very beginning of electric mobility, all the way in the 19th century, people were already having this exact same argument about battery repair? The Lohner Porsche from 1900, considered the first hybrid automobile in history and designed by a very young Ferdinand Porsche, was already dealing with serious headaches over excessive weight and constant maintenance on its lead-acid batteries. Those batteries were so primitive that repairs were literally done by pouring electrolyte fluid in manually with a regular funnel. There's another story I came across while digging deep for this video: the resurrected Teslas in Ukraine. Because these vehicles run on extremely locked-down proprietary electronics, when Tesla declares a car a total loss in the United States over even minor battery damage from a collision, the whole vehicle gets completely locked by the system. Many of those cars end up in Eastern European shops where talented hackers and brilliant mechanics crack open the packs, clean out all the corrosion, swap the damaged cells for ones pulled from wrecked vehicles, and trick the software into bringing the car back to life. It is the cyber salvage yard, the hacker garage, and we cannot forget Renault's quick drop system. Back in 2010, with Il-Sinduri Sakawartatsanina Esir were at Sirasats. With the Fluent ZE, Renault made a bold bet that the solution was not repairing or charging at all, but simply swapping the entire battery pack in just 3 minutes at a robotic station. It was a massive failure because every manufacturer wanted its own proprietary battery format, and nobody ever reached an agreement on a universal standard. Imagine if every car brand required a completely different nozzle shape every time you pulled up to a gas station. That is exactly what happened. From the past straight into the future, because we are hearing more and more about solid-state batteries. They promise longer range and a dramatically lower risk of fires, but be careful, because repairability on those could actually get even more complicated. Since they are a compact solid block with no liquid electrolyte inside, cracking one open without destroying the internal structure is going to be an engineering challenge worthy of a NASA mission. On the other side of that coin, giants like TATL, which manufactures batteries for practically every major brand on the planet, have launched maintenance programs promising to slash costs by up to 80%. They are beginning to standardize modules so that an independent shop can order an original replacement part without being forced to go through an authorized dealership. That right there would be a complete revolution that rewrites every rule in the game. Now let me give you a straight and clear breakdown of when fixing the battery simply does not make sense. First, when the degradation is widespread across the entire pack. If all your cells are running at 70% capacity, replacing just one will accomplish absolutely nothing. The high internal resistance of the worn cells will cause the new one to wear out at an accelerated rate and fail quickly. Second, flood or water damage. Water and lithium do not mix under any circumstances. If the pack took on moisture, the internal corrosion works like a slow and silent cancer spreading through the system, so putting money into that repair is not a risk worth taking. Third, when the repair cost exceeds 60% of what the car is actually worth on the used market today, at that point it is smarter to sell the whole vehicle to a salvage yard and put that money towards something else. Fixing a battery makes sense when the failure is isolated and specific, meaning just a faulty sensor or a single compromised module, and the rest of the pack is confirmed to be in solid health. In that case, the repair can absolutely be worth every dollar. In 2025 across the United States, with battery prices continuing to drop and a growing number of independent specialized shops outside the expensive dealership network, a dead battery no longer automatically means the end of the car. It has become a costly but very manageable repair, comparable, just to give you a frame of reference, to blowing the automatic transmission on a gas-powered vehicle. Now let's get to the car of the day. What do I think about the 2016 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV? I picked this one because it is the perfect example of how smart battery engineering can dramatically extend the life of a vehicle. The Outlander PHEV was a true pioneer in the plug-in hybrid segment, and its battery pack is one of the most mechanic-friendly setups you will find anywhere. It does not use those impossible-to-remove structural adhesives. Everything is bolted together with that clean and precise Japanese craftsmanship. That design choice allowed owners nearly 10 years later to give their vehicles a second life by replacing only the failing modules for a few $1,000s, keeping a fully capable plug-in hybrid SUV running at a fraction of what a new replacement would cost. It is the absolute victory of common sense over the planned obsolescence that manufacturers love so much. Now let me get to some questions from you guys. Marcus sent in a question I found genuinely entertaining. He asks, if I leave my electric car parked outside in the sun all summer long, is the battery going to melt or get completely destroyed? Look, I will be straight with you. It is not going to melt. But intense heat combined with humidity is one of the worst combinations for lithium chemistry, especially in vehicles like the early Nissan Leaf or the first-generation Teslas that did not come equipped with a proper thermal management system to keep the battery cool. My practical advice, if you can manage it during those brutal summer months in states like Arizona, Nevada, or Florida, park your EV in the shade or in a garage whenever possible. I love the question from Tyler, who is clearly a forward thinker. He asks whether there will be classic cars 30 or 40 years from now that are fully electric. The answer is actually pretty fascinating. In my personal opinion, yes, there absolutely will be electric classics. The restorers of the future will need to master battery knowledge completely, and they will without a doubt be dropping modern battery packs into vintage electric vehicles, massively improving the original range in the process. I genuinely believe certain models are already on that path. The BMW i3 is definitely one of them. The early Teslas are another. These cars will become valued classics not in spite of being fully electric, but precisely because of it. Did you know you can actually show up in your favorite channel's videos? And I am pretty confident this is your favorite channel. It is incredibly simple. Just record a short intro greeting, something like "Welcome to the channel," stick around till the end, and feel free to get creative with it. Maybe shout out where you are watching from. We just ask that you follow 3 basic ground rules. First, film horizontally. This is not complicated, people. Just rotate your phone 90 degrees. We get so many vertical videos, and it genuinely hurts to watch them on a big screen. Second, audio quality matters. I am not asking you to go buy a professional microphone, although that would not hurt, but speak up and do not back away too far from your phone while recording. Third, the funnier, more creative, and more original you are, the better your chances of making it onto this channel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, for sending in your intros, for subscribing, for leaving thoughtful comments, for dropping that like, for becoming channel members, and for helping us grow every single day. But more than anything else, I genuinely hope to see you back here again soon. Until next time, take care.